Hi and welcome back to the next video. This is video number 7, where we establish a secure socket.io connection between our NestJS backend and our Angular frontend. So basically we are establishing a secure socket.io connection so that we have like everything set up for our real-time communication later for our chat service and so on. We also validate the connection by checking or by adding in the front end to every handle connection with our socket.io, like our JWT in the headers, so that we can check this in our Nest gateway in our backend and validate the JWT, look if it's valid and see if the user is existing, and if it is okay, then we establish the connection. If not, we disconnect directly. And we also, to do this, we update NestJS to version 8. So this is like in alpha mode, but it works correctly here. And we have no deprecations used so far, so this is all right, because only NestJS in version 8 supports socket.io in version 4, because NestJS in version 7 supports socket.io just in version 2, and we want to make sure that we are always like up to date. Then we come here to our video structure. This is, as always, first we look at our video outcome, then we read the user story for this, and then we implement everything and close the story. So let's have a short look to the outcome of this video here. So you can see we have here our login pages 2 times. So one time in normal mode, the other in private mode. And when we log in, then we come to our dashboard where we listen to like our WebSockets of socket.io. And every time we connect, someone connects, we add like here a value and a random number. So this is being returned or emitted as an event from our backend NestJS gateway to every client from our web or socket.io. So when I log in here with my second account, then on login, there's directly created another value, and you see it here. This is automatically emitted as an event also to here. And if I, for example, just reload the right page, then we have like another value and it gets automatically added here. And you can also see we make some validation. So if I make here like we have 5 requests, then you can see that we make our requests. And we also add here our authorization. So this here is our bearer token. That is, and then we in our backend on handle connection. So when we establish a new connection, we check that this JWT is valid. And if not, we disconnect. And if it is valid, then the user is able to connect and can like later then chat with everyone or make custom rooms and so on. So let's have a short overview over the story for this video here. So this is about implementing something in NestJS and Angular. So we will add socket.io so that we can establish like a secure connection between our frontend and backend with WebSockets. So like for real-time communication. So our story is, as a developer, I want to implement WebSockets with socket.io so that we can later have real-time chat rooms for our users. For this, we need to update NestJS to version 8. This is at the moment in alpha status, so it's not released. But we need this because NestJS WebSockets are on socket.io version 2, which is not compatible with the new socket.io version 4 and also skips version 3. So we have to also make sure to update RxJS to the most recent version. Because only NestJS version 8 will support socket.io version 4. So you can also see this here, I think, as a warning. NestJS platform socket.io currently depends on socket.io version 2.3, and they are not backward compatible. So you want to update NestJS to version 8, and then everything should be fine. So then we also want to establish a connection between our frontend and backend. And we want also to validate our user by checking his JWT token. So we have to attach this to the socket request. To make sure that the connection works, we want to display some simple array value in Angular. So we want just to have some display that our real-time communication works. And then in the next videos, we have to implement something like chat rooms, messages, and so on. So our acceptance criteria is here. The NestJS dependencies are updated to version 8 alpha where available, and we have also to update RxJS. We want to establish a connection between frontend and backend with socket.io, we want to validate the user with adding the JWT and checking it on handle and nest gateway. And we want to display simple array value in Angular so that we return by a socket. So we can now go into our API folder. And yeah, first we can have a quick read here. So for gateways, that most of the concepts are here in this documentation, like dependency injection, decorators, filters, pipes, and so on, all equally apply to gateways. So we just have to annotate our class with WebSocket gateway, and we can either use this with dockersocket.io or WebSockets and so on, or we could also build our own. So you can see it here. We have then our own gateway where we can work with our WebSockets. So for beginning, we have to install these here, and normally also the types, but actually we don't need to install the types because in version 4, because we update this, this is already included. So you can see it here. This is like the changelog for the version 8 release of NestJS. And here they update, where is it? Socket.io to version 4. And we can also have like a look into the documentation for the updated documentation for version 8. So you can also open this here in GitHub, and then we can go, I think it's content, then it's WebSockets, and we can go to the gateways. And then you see here, before it was this, and then we have the switch, and then, so now you only need WebSockets and platform socket.io. So we can install both of these. So simply we are in our API folder and we can open our package.json here and just have a look here. And this would install it in version 7. So when we do this, because this is the latest released version, but if we go to NestJS WebSockets and we have a look in NPM, for example, then you can see it here with the versions that there are like, this is 7.6, this is the latest, but here for version 8 there's an alpha version 5, which we can get with it at next. So we now could, for example, say we want to have the WebSockets at next, and then you see here we have 7.6, and then this should go to version 8 alpha. So just give it some time. Now you see we have here version 8 alpha, and we want to do the same for the platform socket.io. So we also say here at next, and then we can have a look what else. So we need to update also NestJS common, the core, and platform express to the 8 alpha release, and then we are good to go, because from what we've implemented so far there are no changes needed. So probably in the last video of the series I can update this to the then most recent version of version 8, and everything should be fine. So this still works. So now we have to update NestJS common. So we say NestJS common, and we say also at next. And you see you also have the 8 alpha. We can do the same with core. And the platform express. And then also you have to make sure that we update AXJS, because AXJS is in the latest version being used by NestJS, and so the NestJS version 8 relies on AXJS in version 7. So here we are still in version 6, so we have to update this also. So we can say npm install AXJS, and then this should be updated, because otherwise, like the imports, because some imports I think changed or something changed, and so we don't get any errors here. Why was it not updating? Well, then let's just change it 7.1.0. Call npm install, and then we should have it. And then we can have a look that everything still works fine from our API, so we can try to start it before we implement like all the WebSocket and Socket.io stuff. So we can say now docker compose build to build everything. And while this, we can also have like a quick look into the gateways. So we now installed all here. So basically with add WebSocket gateway, you can specify our gateway. The port we don't need because our default port is 3000, so we can stay on this. And we don't also need a namespace for this at the moment. So we can just make it like empty, so we just don't need this here. Then we can, for example, do something like events. We can return data. Let's have a quick look here. So our socket we can emit to like a namespace like values. You can console log something out. We can return multiple responses. We can listen for incoming stuff. And also we have some lifecycle hooks, so like on gateway init, on gateway connection, and on gateway disconnect. So like here on the connection, we can check then with JWT from the user if this is valid or not. And when we disconnect, we can also, so we say here basically, if we just extract like the JWT from the header where we add it to the socket request. And if this is valid, then we allow him to go further. But if it's not valid and the user is not existing in the database, for example, we will like disable or how do you say? Yeah, like disconnect the user. So let's see. So this is, and then we can say docker compose up, and let's see if everything works in our API as before we go on. So this is Postgres, we're a Postgres adminer, our front end. So let's give it some time. So this seems quite good. So now we can have a quick look in our local host if Angular is here. But I think it's not all generated at the moment, so let's wait a bit more. So now it's here. So here we have our login page. Let's just open our console to see if there are any errors. So when I try to log in with thomas@thomas.com and type in my password, when I get logged in, I'm having like hopefully a JWT here in my local storage, and here it is. So this seems all fine working. We can also call Postman and see if we can get all the users. This is at the moment just implemented in Postman, so we can later do this here also in Angular. So let's wait till it's here. So here we have like our request to get all users. So if we try to send and we don't have valid JWT, we get unauthorized. So this seems good. If we try to log in, user not found, I think this here is the user at the moment. We get like a valid JWT that we can just add to our get all users request. and then we get in return our users. So I think the update here worked. So now we can go and implement like our WebSocket gateway in our backend, so our socket gateway. And here we can just go to the documentation. So we need like our chat gateway. Let me have a look, and we need to annotate it with WebSocket gateway. So let's go to the CLI, go into our API, and we say nest generate module. Let's call it chat module. And then we have here our chat module. At the moment there are no imports. But now we also want to generate like a gateway. And this should be in our chat. Then we should have a folder gateway. And this should be our chat gateway. So later that we are able to handle everything for our room real-time communication. So now you see we have here our chat module. We have one provider, our chat gateway. Our chat gateway is like WebSocket gateway, and we have subscribe message. So this is like a namespace or an event that we can subscribe to. So we can say, or we can already try if we can connect to it. So for this we can use something here like Hopscotch. So they have also socket.io implementation. So we can go against our localhost 3000 and it should be on socket.io. So we have here like an error, so we have to check what's going wrong. So this is like course error. So sorry, this is in German, but this is like a simple course error. So what we can do is we can also specify here like options. And for this we can say course, and we can say we want to allow origin, and this could be https hopscotch.io, and then see if it then works. So you see now we are connected. When we say here our event name is here this message. So we send our event name message and send the request. Then you see we get returned hello world. So what is specified here? So at the moment I think this seems quite good. So we can go to the next stuff, and we can start like to implement this in Angular and try to connect with Angular to our backend also. So let's stop this here because we have to install some stuff in Angular. So let's cd out of our folder. And you have already seen here that this is going around our Nest middleware for authentication. So we have to implement this later also for this chat gateway here. But right now we just focus on the connection between Angular and this and our backend. And then we handle, and also in this video, the authentication. So all step by step. So then we cd into our front-end folder, and we can, let's have a quick look. So for this socket.io client, so this is like the socket.io client implementation, and I think for Angular there is like a package, how was it, ngx socket.io I think. Yeah, so you see here it's also version 4. And since we are now using on the server version 4 of socket.io, we also have to use here version 4 of socket.io. So we can just install this here into our front end. And then we should have it added here to our package.json. So here's our socket.io. And yeah, this should be working now. So now we can say docker compose build and let it run. and then we can start implementing our connection to our backend. So now we can go into our app.module, and we can have a quick look here. So we need the socket.io module for root. So where is it here? From socket.io. And we also need like the config, and we can just also copy and paste here the socket.io config from here. And import it. And of course our localhost here should be like the localhost 3000. And then we can also specify some options. This we can here, like we can add later our JWT token. Just have to wait till everything is built here. Yeah, and then we could already like implement like a new service. So we are here in our application. So and then we have our public module where we have the register and login pages. And now we have our private module where we get route after logged in. And here we have just our components. And there we also want to have like a service that handles everything related to the chat. So we say ng generate service. And then we want to go to the private module. We want to generate like a folder services. Then we can say chat service folder and the chat service. And then we should have here like a new services folder, chat service folder, where we can then handle everything that we need. And then we can also remove the ng on init for the dashboard component because we don't need it at the moment. Then we could, in our constructor, get our chat service. Let's have a look at our Docker Compose. So it's still working, running. Yeah, and so then we can like display some values there. We can, for example, let's first make sure that we can connect. So we have here now to call Docker Compose up. And then we can also add some stuff to our chat service. So we have like at the moment two things. So send message maybe and get message. And here we can say we want to return from our socket that we need to inject. So we say private socket from socket. I think it should be this. And then we can just say in the get message. So we want to return our this.socket dot from event, and there we are listening to the message event. And you can see in our gateway we were having like our message event here. And then we could, for example, get the data here, like we say, for example, title. When we get our chat service, we get the message, and then we can just get this value here. So we say title, and then we have the async pipe, which will just subscribe to this here since this is an observable. And now we can look how far we get here. Let's just open our console here. So we are on dashboard. So here also cause error. So this is correct because you see here not with hopscotch.io. Yeah, because we're in localhost, and you see in our chat gateway, I added just here the hopscotch IO, so we can also try to extend our proxy conf JSON a bit in Angular, so that we also rewrite this. And we can have a look, and you see when we make like the requests, they are all against /socket.io. So this is like the base path from socket.io. And then we have like here some query parameters. So we can add here like a new object and then we have to say for /socket.io / and then we can add like our target, and this should be like the same as above. We can say we are secure false, and we want to change origin to true. And we can, I think we have to rebuild it. We have to look if this will work. Maybe we have to test some stuff. So maybe this is also here for VS for WebSockets. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, so then basically our dashboard component will subscribe to our chat service get message here, and we initialized this in our app.module for root with config localhost 3000. And for example, in our, where is our gateway? Our chat gateway, we can here also implement like it's not on gateway. I think it was on on gateway connection, and then we need to implement handle connection, and this is like being called on connect, and then we can like here validate the user. And we can also add here on gateway disconnect, and we can also implement handle disconnect and say console log on disconnect, and then we have to do like some stuff. Now this takes quite a while. Let's have a look what else we can do at the moment. For example, we are here like in our middleware. We can also use some stuff here from, so we can also make on our chat gateway like a try catch. And now we are starting up here. Now we can try again if we can handle the connection. So we can have a look here. And we have to wait till everything starts. Now we have to wait till Angular is also finished. Always takes a bit of time longer. So here it is. So now we can go back to localhost 4200. We can go on login. We can say password. And now we can see that we are still having like some issues. So we can try to make this like an array. Add 1000 to it. And also so let's clear everything here and reload completely to see if there are any more errors. So, but this seems quite nice. So here we make the request against socket.io. First, so this seems okay. So we have seen here connect, disconnect, connect. And here we could, for example, then say we emit the value to all our clients. So we can say server. And here we can use server from socket.io. We have to import this. But we can also annotate this with @web socket server. And then we can say this dot server dot emit. Now better we can emit this here on connection. And now you can see we have here display test. This comes because we are subscribing to the message event in our front end. So in our chat service here in our front end, we subscribe to the event message. Our back end, we emit this and with the value test. So you could also emit here more values or something different. And now we can start by moving this here maybe first. And then we can also import socket.io so that we have here like some type checkings. So we can switch to our API folder and we can npm install socket.io. Let's have a quick look. Socket.io. Yes, this is it. And then we have to rerun it again. Yeah, I'm sorry that we have to do like a little bit of much installation here so far. Yeah. So now we can start by implementing all the other stuff that we want to do. So basically in our chat gateway on handle connection, we want to also check the user. So we can make here also like make this async, and we can make it try catch here. This will be basically the same from the logic than we did in our last video with the auth middleware. So first we want to get our token. So we can say we have like our decoded token here, and this should be our authentication service. So we have to make a constructor here and use our authentication service. And here we just call the verified JWT, and then we can extract it from our socket connection. So we have to see where is the socket IO package. I think it should be import socket from socket IO. And then we can use the socket here. So this is like our socket connection to our client. So from this socket then we can go against the handshake. Then we get the headers and we can get the authorization. So this is what we will need to add in our client. Then we can get the user, or we can try to get the user. And here we basically do the same as before in our auth middleware. So we get we try to get our user. If not, we will throw an error. So we use this function here, our user service get one. So for this we also need our user service. And we also have to import here our modules where we have like the user service and the auth service. So we need our authentication module and we need our user module. And then we have to make sure that in our authentication module we are exporting like the auth service because we need this. And in our user module we have to make sure that we export the user service. So this seems good. So then we can check the user. If there's like thrown error, then we catch it. And then we can, for example, say if our user not there, then we want to disconnect the connection, and else, yeah, we could, for example, like push a value or emit a value. So we could at this time here, we can say import server from socket IO, and then we can have like here like a basic string array. So we have like here a string array. And then if we are like, if everything is valid, we can like push a new value to our array. So this could be like, let's say value, and then we generate like a math.random to string, so that we see that actually something happening. And then we could say this.server.emit, and then we emit like our message event, and then we just return like the whole array. So every time someone is connecting with the correct authentication, we will emit a message event with the whole array. So every time someone connects, there's getting added a value, or if you like reload the page, you also add a value to this. And in our catch, we also want to disconnect. Can remove this. So we can basically say here, we make like a private function, let's say disconnect. And we take in like a connection, so a socket. And then we just say socket dot emit, and we can emit like an error, and we say new unauthorized exception. And the second what we want to do is like socket dot disconnect. And then we can just call it from here. So we say return this dot disconnect, and then we can give it like our socket here from the connection. And the same goes for the catch. So if we try now to connect and make a F5 here, so you say, so you see here, we are like still, where are we, getting like returns, but here we say unauthorized, and then the connection gets disabled, so they try to make a new one, and so on. But they are not getting like here any data. So now we have to add like, or we can also check this here with hopscotch. So if we try to connect, you see we get like our error response. And yeah, this seems good so far. And we can also in the disconnect, disconnect. Yeah, so I think this should be it, and now we have to add our stuff here, our token in our Angular module. So let's close everything here. Let's go to our front end. Let's go to our add module, and here in the options we can add like our JWT token. And now we have to look a bit how we can do this. Let's have a look in the documentation. Socket IO headers JWT. I think it was extra headers. Socket IO extra headers. So let's go to version 4 of the docs. And here we can see extra headers. Yeah, so we can pass them for each request. Yeah, and we can use them during handshake. So we can just say we have here like our options. Then we have our extra headers. And then we give it authorization so that we can get this value. And here we simply use our token getter from our JWT, where we get the JWT from the local storage in the browser. So now you see we have here our value, we get it returned. We can have a look, and always if I make an F5, we add like a value. And if I think when we just make this like this, and I log in here in secret mode again, and then I make a 5 here, you see, and now I make a 5 here on the right just. Then you see here and here we get a value, so directly added. But I was just wondering, because when I go into private mode and localhost and then I log in, so right now I'm not having a token, and I try to log in, then I get nothing displayed, and we have to look. If we make a 5, then it works. So here we probably attach, you see it here, our bearer token to as authorization, so that we can get like the values. Here. but this is here. Yeah, I think here. So I think that on initialization of our app module, it tries to get the token, and then there is no token at this moment. So we have like null, and so our first request is not being authorized. So we can have a look. So we can say nvx socket io like factory. If we can then inject something, but this doesn't seem like it. So what we probably can do is we can refactor everything a bit, because we just want to call this in our private module, which is protected by our authentication guard. So you can only access it if you have like a valid JWT. So for example, we can, let's say we make here like a new folder, let's say sockets, and then we make like a new file, custom socket.typescript, and then we export our class custom socket, and we extend the socket from socket.io. Where is it? And then we can say we want to make a call to super, and we inject here our config. So let's move this from there to here. And import the token getter and the socket config. And then we should be able to use the config here. Then we can remove this here completely from the module. And in our chat service, we don't use the socket, but we use our custom socket. And then this should only be initialized when we hit this stuff, and tries to get the token when there is actually one. So let's have a quick look. And we go into private mode and try this again. And we log in. Then nothing happens. Let's make it. Yeah, I think. No. Oh yeah, I have to make this injectable. And we provide it in root. Then we try again. Let's open another private window. Go to localhost, thomas@thomas.com, password. Yeah, this seems good. So now you see we directly have the values, so we directly have access to all the values that were emitted. So you see it here. And these are like our things. We have our authorization, we have everything here. So now we have our connection between our front end and back end. We can also try this here in normal mode. So we are here. And we can like register another user. So we say thomas@thomas2.com, thomas2, password and password, and register. So we have created a new user. Then we log in here with the first user. And maybe we can just clear this here. Let's go to our backend. And let's just reload this, so then our array here from title is again empty, so that we can see it better. So when we now reload, we don't have like a value here. So now nest is there, then we have our value directly. Then we open like another private window. We go to our localhost page. Then we log in with our second user. We log in. When you see, we have directly here then the second value and also here. So WebSocket the connection seems to work. And we also have like here, we are validating like the token. And we can also console log the token out. For example, and you can see it here. We just have to wait. And then automatically they realize here, our clients, that the backend is back up the gateway, and it automatically tries to connect, and then we log out here the tokens in our onHandle connection function. So we can remove this here again. And now we can, here basically we are already done, and we can check our user story if everything that we wanted to do is implemented. So let's go to story 7. So here we have updated our NestJS dependencies. And we also updated AXJS. We have like established a secure connection between our frontend and backend with socket.io. We will enhance this in the next video, so for chatting, for room creation probably, and so on, so that nearly all inside a private module then is handled in real time. And we are validating the user with adding the JWT, and we track it on handle in our Nest gateway. And we display like the simple array value in Angular returned by our socket, so that we can make sure that the connection works. You can see now we have changed 17 files, and we can commit it. So we say git add r, git commit -m, and now we are in video 7. And we can say like establish a secure socket.io connection between Angular and NestJS. Also validate the request by checking the JWT and if the user exists. Then we push it, and then this should be all.